Hello again, everybody. So, I wanted to make this video whilst the idea was still very much fresh in my mind, so to speak. So, allow me to explain myself. Many months ago, a very astute commentator left a reply down below saying that they thought what I had a very, very stoic personality. The idea being is that I do not need to scream. I do not need to shout. I do not need to express anger or frustration. All I have to do is stay calm, be relaxed, composed, focused. And I can get through life. I can win every single battle merely by being calm and composed. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this absolutely has its points. In several of my videos I usually do on Saturdays, it's not exactly out of the question that at some point during the night, somebody, one, two, maybe three people, will decide that they do not like me filming around Newcastle and merely making videos largely just sort of talking about what I think goes on and in general minding my own business. They are angry for me simply for the crime of actually obeying the law and not doing anything illegal. All the while, I've had people who've assaulted me and people who said that they are going to assault me whilst disturbing the peace. The great irony of all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is that in the attempt to get a rise out of me and an attempt to get a reaction by invoking violence, the irony is that I have two reasons why I don't need to react whatsoever. Because one, they've already put themselves on camera, so the whole world knows what they look like. And two, the evidence is all I needed. That was all I needed to hear. I don't think the need for gathering any more evidence is required, nor is it even necessary. You could say, by and large, that, as they say, is that. There is no need to say more. In fact, I can just as easily turn information over to the police because insofar as you could say I am concerned, I am not going to be threatened and I am not going to be made a victim of violence. For again, like I said, it's merely for the crime of actually obeying the law and not doing anything illegal. Insofar as I'm concerned, I am absolutely as clear as crystal when it comes to stuff like this. Bear in mind, even a lawyer tried to square up to me thinking that she knew more than I did about what I do. And guess what? She was proven to have egg all over her face. So I don't really know what other people think they've got up their sleeves that can one-up me because, well, it just says it all, that I know more about the law and about matters such as these than actual people who are paid to be lawyers. I would say that just about sums it up, but let me refute to you guys as we flip the script a little bit. Just because I make the case of being stoic, ladies and gentlemen, and believe you me, I think there's a lot of evidence to back up this claim, I am not what they call immune to being angry. Oh, believe you me, it's absolutely true. Now, with that being said, I don't feel that when I get angry, I'm going to turn into the Hulk anytime soon. But consider this. Here is absolutely the usual chain of events when I do get angry. More often than not, it's between one of two things. Or rather, it's one or two ways in which I do become angry. The first is a self-infliction point of view, aka I'm angry at myself because I might make a mistake that I absolutely should have known better for. And guess what? I think of the two, this is probably far more reasonable, but is it absolutely necessary to be like that angry with yourself? It was if it was an honest mistake, if it was just, if it doesn't hurt anybody and if it can be resolved without any need for complications or anybody, nobody gets hurt, everything can be sorted, then that's that. Mind you, I do apologize for when I do get things wrong, because I like to imagine that if I'm going to call myself an adult, I may as well respond in a rather adult-like fashion. Part of my frustration sometimes with life, it would seem these days, is that the word adult and mature are two words, and that's about it. Because more often than not, adult and mature are only used in the category to describe people who do not fit this criteria. Sad but true. They say that there are only two types of men in life, ladies and gentlemen. You are either a gentleman or not a gentleman. And when you are a gentleman, you fail to behave as one. Sad but true. Now, the second way in which anger is invoked is when it's directed from person A to person B, and these will be usually very, very, very offhanded remarks, the sort of things that, quite frankly, you could only imagine what were they expecting someone to respond to when people say such a things as, "Can we not get somebody else? This guy's useless." What do you expect me to say to stuff like that? More often than not, in fact, I'd say 100% of the time, I do not say anything. Because if I did say anything, I imagine, even at its very worst, it would probably be more along the lines of, well, go and find another business then who will tolerate that attitude. Because personally, ladies and gentlemen, I do not tolerate rudeness. In fact, if I had it my way, I would not accept the society or even the custom or even the money of people who are just point blankly rude. Rudeness, you see, ladies and gentlemen, is not having fun. Rudeness is having fun at somebody else's expense. I do not feel like I need to elaborate. I think we all know what sort of people those are. But I also think it's a damn shame, on my point of view, that sometimes I wish I would be able to do anything to defend myself at all costs, especially when these sorts of things happen. Because when I don't defend myself in such cases like this, it opens the floodgates to bullying as far as I'm concerned. And I know too much about bullying, ladies and gentlemen, to tell you, as a matter of fact, guess what? It's not the sort of thing that's going to stop just because you can get away with it. In fact, if you believe you can get away with it, you will continue to do it. If you do something and you do not get in trouble for it, are you going to stop doing it? Doesn't really, it doesn't seem to make sense, does it? And this is the sort of thing that, as you might imagine, when you're not allowed to stand up for yourself and defend yourself, it's the sort of thing that starts to brew up inside oneself. This, again, an all too natural response. Somebody says something bad against you for no good reason. Surely you want to know exactly what the game is when people start doing that. It's not a new idea. It's not a new method of thinking. It's just, well, what do you mean by saying that? What did I ever do to you? We all know what this looks like, and I reckon there are people out there who have the absolute patience of saints, probably even more godlike things. But here is the inevitable result of all of this. It gets stored up deep inside. It becomes something of a charge to this little lobe, this little battery-like lobe inside my brain called fury, rage, if you like to call it. You could call it many different things, and maybe even the application could be under the scrutiny of aggression, rage, fury, etc. What I do know, on the other hand, is that the way I excrete all this pent-up aggression and rage and fury, and I think that is going to be the true measure of how I deal with things like aggression and rage and fury and all of those things. Because if channeled in the right way, controlled aggression, then I would like to believe you can create something probably even more disastrous, something even more conflicting than any of the conflicts that are currently going on in the Middle East. What you've done inadvertently when you assault, because listen, you have got to be very, very careful about people who are calm, because as I've mentioned before, people like me are calm right up until the moment when they're not. And when calm men who suddenly turn angry, guess what? They don't understand their full strength. And when you deal with somebody who does not understand their full strength, you also have no idea what they're capable of. More to the point, even the man who has gone postal doesn't have any idea of what his capabilities truly are. And when that sort of thing happens, well, you have just about unleashed a weapon of mass destruction. And I think there is a lot to be said about when events like these do happen. Do you want to be the one who broke the camel's back? Are you going to be the one held responsible for actually pushing the button says launch the weapon of mass destruction? Do you really want to be renowned for that? Because they will say it was you. You're the one who started all this. And like I said, you deal with somebody who doesn't know their own strength. Are you really want to see what exactly he's going to put to the test? Because one thing is for certain, it will happen. I absolutely guarantee it will happen one of these days. You'll push somebody and push somebody until you've backed them so tightly into a corner. Even if all the walls were closing in, he will still try and fight it. Whatever happens. Thankfully, however, the way I've chosen to combat this series of pent-up aggression is very simply, whenever I can, I feel like I can deal with it and then put up with it no longer, I will excuse myself to the gym for at least 3 or so hours and literally work myself into such a state that there will be nothing but a pool of sweat littered all over the floor, and they would probably have to send out a respirator so I can just about catch my breath or try and jumpstart my heart, one a little less aggressive and pounding than before. Going to the gym nowadays it's not really a quest to lose weight or to build muscle. It's more merely just to let out some of this steam. And to be honest, what would you rather prefer? I let out my steam in a controlled, aggressive way, or let out my steam in a completely uncontrolled, aggressive way? You tell me, guys, because I actually did have a little bit one of those moments where honestly I thought I was gonna go ballistic. Thankfully, it didn't happen. But I also know I'm going to get myself to the gym first thing in the morning. I don't even know if I'll be able to get any sleep over this. Thankfully, I don't have work until the night and stuff like that tomorrow. So, insofar as I'm concerned, I'll probably sleep it off in the afternoon. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I try and sleep it off, and when I wake up, I become even more unreasonable. That's happened before, right? But let's just wait and see, shall we? I'll see all of you guys again tomorrow. Thank you.